I need to touch on Arizona State again. But as you've been made well aware, I have to give our mandatory disclaimer. Nothing I'm about to say is my personal judgment on this program. Nothing I'm about to say is my personal take on what was right or wrong. And nothing of what I'm about to say is my personal take on what should happen. It's simply what we're hearing, what we're seeing in media reports, and what I think will happen, and maybe what a lot of coaches and college administrative types behind the scenes want to see happen. But I think there's one area that we've sold a little bit short, and by we, I mean us on Late Kick when we've talked about this. There's one area, and I think it has to do with the impact. And I mean college football impact. Something like this, even though you may not think of Arizona State as a marquee Tier 1, Tier 2 type program, and they're not right now, there is still a big enough footprint there, and they still have a big enough footprint in the college football sphere that this could cause a pretty sizable ripple effect. So I'm going to circle back around to that. But before the whole talk of impact, there is something new that came out from the last time you and I spoke to each other. And I don't know if you caught it. Maybe if you're paying attention to this thing and you're checking every morning across the internet with a magnifying glass, maybe you did see it. But I bet most of you didn't. But that's okay. That's why we're here. That's why they just have us do this and nothing else. So it did not make waves, but I think it should. I think we have a quote graphic for it. I'm going to read it off my screen here because it's pretty lengthy. Well, it's not that lengthy. It's not like you need to go get a snack and come back and I'll be done. But this was from The Athletic. This is reported by Doug Haller and Bruce Feldman. They've been covering this for The Athletic. Pete Thamel over at Yahoo Sports has done a great job too. So I'm going to read it for you if you're listening on podcast. Gene Boyd, that's a deputy athletics director who oversees the Arizona State football program. This is an allegation, was made aware of potential recruiting violations during the winter. A former athletic department staff member told The Athletic. The staffer did not know whether Boyd investigated the info or kept it to himself. Reached by a reporter Thursday night, Boyd started a brief conversation by saying he could not comment on anything because of the NCAA's ongoing investigation. Told of the allegation that he was informed of potential violations, he repeated, "I'm not going to comment on anything at all." Okay, so here's the rub here. You got a deputy AD, and every structure of an athletic department is different. Some of the ADs are there specifically to oversee football. Some of them are a lot more fundraising types, and then you have deputy or associate ADs with a specific focus on programs, and so that's probably more the structure you have here. So this guy, who you probably never heard of, Gene Boyd, he oversees football. The allegation is someone made him aware of it in the winter, and I guess the follow-up allegation is he didn't do anything about it. Now, that's not where the Athletic report goes. Bruce Feldman and Doug Haller stopped short, and they say, we haven't been able to confirm that. When we presented the allegation to him, he said, can't tell you anything. I just want you to file this away. This could be a monumental deal, or it could be a nothing. Now we encapsulate it back into the context of what else is going on here. We got all these illegal visits, and allegedly, according to the Yahoo Sports report, we got documentation, we got receipts, we got travel, we've got documentation of group text messages between coaches, we got maybe surveillance camera footage of Herm Edwards himself with a recruit. Again, allegations at this point. Nothing's been put on our desk that proves any of this. But I think when you just heard what I read, it could be habitual at this point as it relates to the Arizona State story to say, oh, that's just another detail. Well, no, friends, it's not just another detail. Again, this is where I stop for a second time and say, I'm not giving you commentary on this. I'm telling you it will be a big deal if it's true, regardless of what you and I think about it. All right, now we continue. Hit the play button. There is a sound in college athletics. Not a word. There's a sound in college athletics. It's the scariest sound. It's the equivalent of you being 4 years old, hearing that sound in your closet. There's a monster in the closet. Well, the scariest sound in college athletics is LOI. Not Tom Loy. You're safe over at Irish Illustrated. I mean LOI. It's an acronym. It stands for lack of institutional control. And this is the sort of thing that can get you in really hot water. And then it can start to affect not just football, but baseball, basketball. Now, I am going to tell you, here's where I will insert some commentary. I do not think that this is going to be some flaming asteroid that just takes out Tempe, Arizona, and everything that is Arizona State athletics. But using history as our guide, that's what is potentially on the table when you have people that are in charge of, in this case, running the football operations, who are made aware of allegations very specific in nature, and they do nothing. You got a pretty tall task on your plate. You're paid a lot of money, you got a tall task, and that is you have to maintain control of your program and operate under the guidelines and bylaws as passed down by the NCAA. And if they catch you not doing that, and it's blatant, which according to these reports it is, then you got some trouble. But look, we're going to find out about that in due time. What about the impact? As we've seen it reported, if all of this or even most of fractions of it is true, then you're going to have a lot of coaching turnover there. But I think a lot of people assume that at this point. Not everyone, but I am among those that assume something eventually is going to happen in terms of coaching staff turnover there. But that's not the biggest impact. That just impacts Arizona State. Think about Pac-12 South this year. If this were an otherwise clean situation and they were riding into 2021, this was going to impact the Pac-12 South. It may still. We don't know how this turns out, but USC is the biggest beneficiary from this, I think, by 10 miles. Arizona State was going to be a big-time challenger. And I'm speaking in the past tense only because I think this will impact this upcoming season. What does it do in the Pac-12 South? Well, Utah's better for it. Certainly, USC is better for it. It takes what could have been a big hurdle away from several programs. You're looking at Arizona State's schedule right here on YouTube. They play at UCLA, at Utah, USC, at Washington. I mean, this was going to be one of the big games for Washington up north. Washington, we're going to talk about this later in the show, they don't play USC this year. They don't play Utah. Their toughest game from the South was going to be this game against Arizona State. Who knows what that means now? We're going to talk about that later. And so that's one point of this. The second point is, what if this job comes open? Well, then we have to ask ourselves, is it a scenario A or a scenario B? Arizona State's thought of in the college football world as one of the more underrated coaching jobs in America. I agree with that. I thought after Texas A&M got themselves seriously about football and hired Jimbo Fisher, I viewed this as one of the biggest sleeping giant programs in college football. There's a lot of talent that leaves that area that could stay home. Ty Thompson, for example, is a kid at Oregon right now. Could play this year, certainly is looked at as the quarterback of the future. They had to go to Arizona to get him. That kid didn't reside in Salem, Oregon. They had to go to Arizona to get him. And the point is, scenario A, let's say there is a coaching change there made, but the NCAA looks at it and says, all right, look, this was a strong, extenuating kind of circumstance. It was a weird one-off. We're not going to punish you athletic department-wide. Clean out the coaching staff. We'll be good. It could be that, or it could just be that everything goes up in smoke. But if it's scenario A and you got a ready-made program sitting there and you got a bunch of head coaches looking around saying, I'd like that. Well, that could be a game changer. Someone calling me as they know good and well I'm on the air. And then the other part here is, what does it do to this roster? Because I think this is the most immediate point of interest. And a lot of staffs out here that still have a couple of scholarship spots open, let's say for this upcoming year, they're looking out there and they're saying, there's a reason that team was going to be ranked in the top 15 or top 20. They got some good players. I wish we could get an announcement sooner rather than later or get some indication about what's going to happen because we could use this guy, we could use that guy. I know that makes you feel the need to take a shower when you hear it, but that's the reality of college football right now. So there's a lot going on here. This is going to have impact. If you're an Illinois fan, if you're a Florida State fan, who knows? This could impact you in ways that you never thought imaginable.